Well, good morning, Gordon College. You're wondering why I've gathered you all together. First of all, for those who don't know me, I'm Bill Mooney-McCoy. I'm the Director of Worship. Which means that there can be no worship on campus without my approval. Thank God that's not true. But I want to say up front, it is an unspeakable honor to serve you guys and to lead worship with you and to work with amazing teams like our Catacombs team. Yeah, Catacombs in the Light, yes! And today we've got something unique, special, different. We have assembled for you a panel of worship leaders at Gordon, present and past, and wanted to share some of what it's meant to lead worship at Gordon College. So I'm hoping this will be an engaging conversation. These are some amazing folks, and so I'll start out by having them introduce themselves by their name, the year in which they either have graduated or plan to, and kind of their role at Gordon College in worship, and finally, just a little bit of how they get started in worship. Can you handle all that? Is that too much? One more time, with the, your name, so far so good? Yeah, okay. Class of, role at Gordon, and how you got started in leading worship. So we'll start with my friend here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanell. I am a 2014 grad, and I currently serve at Gordon in the admissions office, so I work over there. As far as how I got started in worship and music, I grew up in a charismatic gospel church, non-denominational church. And I grew up singing in the choir and actually didn't really start leading worship in the sense of doing so more individually from a group until I got to Gordon.
Did you mention what you did at Gordon?
At Gordon, yes. I was a part of the starting of the gospel choir, and then I was, yes, and then I was on morning chapel band for 3 years.
I'm so grateful to be here today. My name is Kristen Zaloom. I'm an 86 grad, so I'm pretty much the oldest one up here. And while I was here at Gordon, I was one of 3 students privileged to start the worship experience Catacombs. So, yeah, it is a privilege. And I have a married daughter and a son about to graduate from college and an amazing husband who's sitting here, and we are from Albany, New York.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carter. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. I am a senior here. I have been leading morning chapel band for the last 3 years. Been playing on it since my freshman year. I used to be the guy in the back on the keys, and now I'm the guy in the front on the keys. But a little bit about how I got started in worship. I actually don't play any other kinds of music. The story is, my charismatic friends in the house will like this. I don't remember this, but my parents tell me that when I was about 5 years old and they had just gotten saved, I came down one morning for breakfast and said that I had a dream that I had been playing God's music. And so they didn't really know what to do with that, and they went to the pastor. And my mom's always been a bit of a prayer, and so the pastor said, just get him some piano lessons, and the rest will write itself. And so I was always kind of involved in worship wherever I was, but I'm definitely here. It's been a privilege to lead all of you guys these last 4 years. It's really spurred personal growth for me, but it's been a pleasure to get to know you as well.
I'm Dorothy. I co-lead the Catacombs team, and I'm a senior at Gordon. I think I've been to Catacombs once, and it was last year. But I started out in worship music playing piano at my church, and I'm not very good at that anymore because I don't do it anymore. But yeah, that sort of led to me learning other instruments and like leading songs at church. But it's something that I've been doing for a long time, and I can't really imagine not doing.
Hi, my name is Drew Morgan. Hey, you might recognize me from my part-time evening librarian job over at Jenks. That's what I do at night. When I was a student, though, I helped start The Space, which was a few years ago now. But I graduated in 2016, and when I was 12, my mom was a worship leader, and so when I was younger, like 8, 9, I played without being plugged in on the side of the stage. But then when I was 12, our family started a church, and that's when I started leading worship more full time with my sister Dana, who may or may not be here, honestly. I know she has a lot of homework. Sorry to blow up your spot. I love you, Dana. But that's when I started leading worship. I was pretty young, and then that led me to Gordon, and the rest is history.
Kristen, I'm going to start with you. It's a broad question. So, how and why did you start Catacombs?
Okay.
Where did that name come from? And how was it received then? And are you a little surprised that it's still happening?
Okay. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, okay? So, the Romans hated death. I mean, who loves death? But they literally hated death, and they built vast systems of catacombs underground. They wanted to push any sight or thought of death out to the farthest margin. Even when they buried their dead, they took slaves to bury the dead under the ground. They wouldn't go down there. So Christianity was certainly at odds with the empire. So basically, Christians found safety and freedom to worship down in the catacombs. And so that is kind of the inspiration. You can take the metaphor from there. But specifically here at Gordon, 34 years ago, my hall director in Bromley was named Dave Horn. And his wife, Cease, he and his wife were here, I think, the whole 4 years that I was here. And he had been a student at Bethel College and experienced a worship event that's similar to Catacombs. When he returned to Bethel as the dean of students, he tried to resurrect that, but it didn't go anywhere. And so he just stopped trying. When he came to Gordon, the chaplain then was Dean Bussell, Harold Bussell. He tasked Dave with developing small groups in the dorms. I guess that had never been done before. And instead of doing them floor-specific, he decided to gather natural affinity groups. And I happened to be in one of those. And he named the program Oasis. So, the whole idea was that we were to gather in communities that made sense. And we actually prayed flat on our faces in his apartment for revival on this campus. Which, in a way, if some of you might think, we're already a Christian campus, like we know what we're doing here. But all of us, our hearts can hold things that keep us from truly surrendering. So we need prayer for revival, and that's what we did. And out of that, he looked at 3 of us in that group and said, I want you to start a worship experience to bring the students on this campus to a place where they're connecting more intimately with Jesus. And at the time, there was no like Hillsongs, there were no professional worship groups, and that's all fine. But there was nothing, there was no Bethel, it really didn't exist. So this was something very organic and fresh. So he gave us 4 guidelines. 1, context, low lighting, candles only, sitting on the floor. 2, cram people together. We sat shoulder to shoulder. The idea was corporate focus on Jesus. It wasn't about the setting, or it felt right to be next to the people that you're close with and just giving it all to the Lord. 3rd was keep it short. He said, do not go past 45 minutes. We want people to be so desirous of coming back for more. And so 45 minutes, 9 to 9:45 on a Sunday night, done. Last thing he said, resist performance. Do not focus on yourselves. So to the point where one night I remember leading from the back of the room, and just on purpose to make it intentionally known that this was not about me. So we decided, okay, we will probably get about 25 or 40 people. We started in Bromley basement. We exploded out of that. We had 400. And I will tell you, it never stopped, to the point where we had to move into Gillies. Now, when I was here, Gillies Lounge was from the mailroom all the way over to the other end of the building. So we had that it wasn't parceled up. So we literally took up that whole space. And there was standing room only up the stairs near the mailroom. I think it's still the mailroom over there. Anyway, I have to tell you, God made us to worship him. And if you don't worship him, you're going to worship something. However you do it. It's not about the form. It's not about the form, whether it's a gospel choir or a hymn, or you're on your face clapping, praising the Lord, speaking in tongues, whatever it is. You know what it is? Genuine worship is about the state of your heart. Because what you love most, you're going to worship. And I've learned that because I spent many years worshiping me. But Catacombs started, the legacy of Catacombs is that it was completely about Jesus Christ and him only. And now, and I'll just keep it really short, but now God chose 5 years ago to start a very organic worship experience. I didn't start it. Somebody asked me to train a D1 hockey player on how to lead worship. That was like, okay. And he knew how to play guitar. We started 5 years ago. We have 60 college kids jamming into our 2-bedroom apartment every other Sunday night. We feed them, and we're on our face. And if every one of them came at one time that have ever come, we'd have over 200. And that would be against fire code. So, you know, what I'm telling you is it's not about me. I didn't say, I want to start an organic worship service in my house. God just said, this is what we're doing. So I just encourage you to be open.
Wow.
Anyway.
Shanell, you were a charter member of the gospel choir. What were some of the campus needs that the gospel met when it first started, and also a little bit how it's changed since?
Sure. So I wouldn't say that it's changed a ton. And students who are in the choir now can attest to what it's all about. But I think the core of it was really creating a space where students could come together and just worship freely. No bounds, no time restraints. A lot of the rehearsals were, and I'm sure still are, just a time to worship. So through that, through prayer, through supporting one another, it was really just a beautiful time to see God move in the lives of everyone who was there. So I remember countless times of folks asking for prayer requests and coming back 2 weeks, 3 weeks later and saying, whatever I prayed for has been met, that need has been met. So that was just the real beauty of the choir. As far as kind of where it came from, I know there was a gospel choir at one point, even before my time, and I was actually leading the morning chapel band when the current director, Craig, came to me and said that God had given him this vision to revive the choir. And so I loved my time on morning chapel band. And for me, coming from the background that I did, I learned so much more about worship from my time at Gordon. I came from a place where I didn't know the hymn that we sang, Be Thou My Vision, before I came here, because we didn't sing that in my church. So I just had the privilege of learning so much about other types of worship that opened me up to something totally different. And I think the gospel choir did exactly that for another group of students who didn't have that experience prior to coming here. So Craig had come to me my junior year, it was, and he asked if I would be willing to play the piano for the gospel choir. And I honestly felt very torn because I loved what I was doing, but I wrestled with it, and then I really felt like God was telling me to be a part of this seed that's being planted, to start something else beautiful on this campus. So we took off, and I think we started in March, and we didn't sing until the following year. But nobody really cared because it was just so beautiful to be able to come together and sing this music and be in this space together. And that was really all that mattered. So, yeah.
Thanks, Shanell. Drew, 2 years you wrote, and I have it on my email. There was a need for a student-led hour-long worship sets to give students more time to worship without feeling rushed or stressed. Can you say what led you to launch this space?
When I was a student, and I feel like it's actually pretty different now, but there was a lot of the conversations regarding like cultural issues, political issues were pretty heightened at that time. There was tension, among different groups on campus, and it was just, there was a lot of different times where, like, during worship, like, you would all of a sudden just feel like you'd have like a second to breathe and a second to process between you and God, like how you felt about whatever the conversations were. They're heavy conversations, they're real conversations, and they needed to be had. There were glimpses of that, like I said, in previous years, like in previous iterations of Evening Chapel, which were incredible, and Catacombs, you definitely captured some moments of that. And Isabel Pakovich was the co-leader with me that year, and we just kind of were thinking, okay, how can we serve the campus and give something that we knew we needed as well. And so we had hoped that we could create a space for people to come as they were, with whatever sides of the aisle they were on whatever conversations were happening, to come together for like an hour just to be united in worship and to love each other in a way that is not common when people disagree over different things. And then from there, it kind of birthed into time of prayer for each other and kind of contemplation. And then it just kind of took off. I think it was the largest evening chapel ever, the first one that we did. It was in here. And it was just really powerful to see, just when given the opportunity, how we as a student body responded. Does that kind of cover?
That's good. Yeah,
it, I think.
So this is for Dorothy and Carter. You can sort of fight over who's going to talk. As current worship leaders, how do you choose songs for chapel gatherings, both the Catacombs and for the morning chapel? And what are the challenges of putting together worship sets for a diverse campus like this one?
I mean, putting together sets for Catacombs and for Morning Chapel are very, very different.
Which is why I asked for both.
Putting a set of 3 songs together in the morning about every week or so, it's a little tiring, truthfully. But I would say that kind of the thought process that I go through is I keep up on all of the current worship music, obviously, but I'll be listening to music and I'll think, you know, what songs of these are really connecting with me at the moment, and then what songs do I think would really connect with you guys? And obviously we have hurdles of an interdenominational campus, over 40 different faith traditions represented amongst you guys, and it's impossible really to please everyone in one single chapel gathering, but I really do try the best with my co-leader Madison, I don't know if she's here or not, to just pick songs that are really gonna, what I feel like would resonate with all of you, would speak to whatever is going on campus at the time, whatever Tom happens to be preaching on, to kind of make it a cohesive worship experience. And so a lot of times, like, that's not the songs that I really want to do. A lot of the times it's the song that God is like, all right, Carter, you should probably do this one. And I say, all right, but I'm not going to sing it. I'm just kidding. But that's kind of what goes through my head. And then obviously I can gauge your guys' response because I can see you all, and then we plan accordingly.
For Catacombs, it's definitely different because it's a much longer set. And just like by nature of the way we play, we have to play different music. But I think usually what my co-leader Molly and I do, we have a meeting every week where we just sit down and we think about like what we've been thinking about or what we sort of sense the climate of the campus to be. When you are playing in Catacombs, you can feel the collective emotion of the room. And like if you're willing to pay attention to that, it can really like the Spirit can lead you in certain directions that you didn't expect to go. And so when we plan sets, we really try to take that into account. And also a lot of times we'll just be like meditating on one passage of scripture and find songs that have to do with that passage of scripture. Or a couple weeks ago, we did a set that was just like a meditation on peace and the peace of God. So usually it'll be sort of like vaguely themed or just based on like, I feel like everyone's really tired this week, or like I just feel this sense of like people are afraid, or people are needing to like express some joy like through suffering, or yeah, just based on like where we are, where our friends are, where we feel like you are.
Amen. Our time is getting close to finish, but I'd just like to ask really briefly if someone just could comment on this. Anybody? What posture would you encourage for our student body as they come into a worship gathering at Gordon? Go ahead, Dora.
So I'm kind of excited to be here and to be able to answer that very question, I think. For me, musical worship, or like worship through music, is not the way that I most profoundly connect with God, ironically enough. I'm like a bad worship leader, I guess. But I think that we often privilege like musical worship as like that's our worship. And I think that when I come into this space, this chapel space, it's often a really difficult space for me because I come in and I'm like, how are these people all getting it, and I'm not getting it? I don't feel it. I don't understand what's going on. This is just like a song. These are just words. So if you come into this space and you feel that way, just know that like you are really not alone in that. But I think what has helped me and the posture that I take when I come into this space is thinking about this as a time to turn my eyes in a specific direction. When I come and I sing songs and I listen to a speaker and I pray with people all around me as a group, that's not all of my worship. That's me fixing my eyes on God, recentering myself, remembering why I do things the way that I do them. And then when I go out and I live my life is my worship. So I would encourage you to think about these gatherings in that way, and then also to think about what you do that makes you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do. Like for me, I'm a visual artist. When I draw, that's like how I pray. That's how I worship. When I engage with beautiful things and I look at beautiful things, like that's how I pray. That's how I worship. And when I come here and I sing songs with all of you, that's how I turn my eyes towards God, so that when I'm engaging with beautiful things, I know who made those things. So I think that's the posture I would encourage. It could be anything. Like you could go and you could study, and that's like how you're worshiping. But just think of this as a time to recenter, whatever that looks like for you.
Sorry to interrupt, but we need to close just 2 closing points. One is that we in the chapel staff are really open to hearing feedback from you guys. So if you have some concerns, questions, want to chat with me about worship, please come talk to me. And secondly, you as students can make a huge impact. Kristen was a student when she started Catacombs. Thousands and thousands of people have been impacted by that decision. Drew was a student when he started the space, and hundreds of you gather once a month every Monday. Craig Ramsey and others like Shanell started the gospel choir, and there have been hundreds of folks who've come through that and been impacted. You as students can do stuff that will outlive your time here at Gordon. So pray that God show you what he has for you to do. And finally, go away. You're dismissed.